The new version of JobPro has been built from the ground up as a single file or a single window and makes great use of the new features in FileMaker 12. There are various advantages to this, including that the system is quicker to open up as a single file over the internet or on an iPad or an iPhone as well, as there's been only one window to move around the screen. It also makes the system more ideal for hosting online or in the cloud. So hosting charges for FileMaker databases using a hosting company tend to be based on how many files there are. So it makes it cheaper to host JobPro in the cloud, as previously you had multiple files. New Ship To functionality has been added to quotes, sales orders, sales invoices and the shipping modules. So let's take a look at quotes, for example. In here we've now a new section for a shipping address besides the invoice or bill to address, and this functionality is also in sales orders, sales invoices and also in the shipping module. Also, from an address in the system that you might be looking at, there's a new pin added, so you can view that in Google Maps. So click the pin and it'll open up in your browser, or alternatively we can click on the link for the address and it views the address within JobPro itself. We've also enhanced the functionality in the top module menu that you see throughout the system. For example, we're grouping modules together like inventory and sales, because there's a lot of modules in the system, although you can turn those off in setup or at a user level. But if you're using a small screen, it gives you the ability to then view different modules and click on them instead of having to go back to the home screen. Also in setup you can specify if you want to even group modules together on the screen. So if you use a larger screen normally, you can remove these group icons here so that you just have all the module icons together. We've also improved the quick view area on the home screen. So let's go back home. Now the quick view area is basically any module that has a little arrow underneath it. It has what we call a quick view. So for example, if you want to see any jobs that are in progress, any tasks that are current as well, or your time logs for today, any inquiries that you might need to follow up on, or quotes, sales orders, sales invoices that haven't been paid, receipts for specific dates. If you want to do a quick search on companies or contacts, the functionality in the quick view area has been improved with a lot more functions within the screen, and also we've taken away the menu from being on the left hand side on the home screen and made it consistent by putting it up at the top just like every other window, so that we can get the full width of the screen for the quick view area. There's also new groups functionality in modules like companies, contacts, products and jobs to allow grouping of those areas by a group name. It makes it easy to search on specific groups of companies, contacts, products and searches, services and jobs, for example. So if we have a quick look in contacts, and we can see on the other tab in here, we can create a group. In setup you can create as many groups as you like, but then you can link a group to a set of individuals or a set of companies or a set of jobs or products. So this is a new feature that's been added in that's very useful. The preview menu that's used throughout the system also has new options added. For example, if we're printing a document like a report or a list screen, we now have the ability to export records from here as well. And in general there's improved import and export features, including the ability to control using access privileges who can import or export data in the system. An export option now appears in the records top menu that appears in every module, as well as the preview menu that is displayed when previewing or printing documents throughout the system, like reports here. And in the records menu we can see export records from here. So if you want to export contacts, for example, you go into the contacts module, you pull up the found set of contacts that you want to export, and then in records, assuming you've got access to export records, you can click on that, and then you can specify the name and type of export you'd like to do. And from an importing point of view, if we go into setup, we can select import from here, and this gives us options to import areas like inquiries and leads, contacts and companies, and products and services, where basically you pre-populate spreadsheets that are located in the JobPro folder in a folder called import documents. There's a separate video tutorial on importing and exporting records in the system. So we've also improved the identities functionality. So let's go into setup and my company. So an identity is something like a multi-company feature, but we've the ability now to specify what you want to refer to an identity as, like a branch or an office or a store or a department. And you can also specify default location in and default location out from a stock movement point of view for each identity as well. If we go back and take a look at the products module, there's more flexibility in what you can specify in the type drop-down menu. So in setup you can specify all of the different types of products you deal with. In the previous system it was just restricted to finished, raw and service, but now these can be edited in setup. There's now the ability to flag a company as both a customer and a supplier. So let's take a look at that. So instead of previously you just had a type which was customer, contact, supplier and employee, but now you can actually separate out customers and suppliers where a particular company can be both. And the same at the contact level, where you can have a customer as a contact, but also an employee as well. Could be theoretically treated as a customer. So they're both split out at this level. There's also improved use of sales and purchase tax and nominal codes throughout the system, making it more compatible posting transactions to accounts packages. So nominal codes for sales and purchases can now be set as defaults at product and company or contact level, as well as overall defaults in setup. So if we take a quick look at that, where we can go into setup, and under products and services we can specify the purchase tax code, sales tax code as well, and the purchase nominal code and the sales nominal code for defaults when you create any new products or services in the system. There's new additional access privileges have been added to allow control over if a user can view certain employee tabs for other employees. So if we go into access privileges and click on contacts, there's additional functionality added in here. So for example, if a user can edit their own leave or holiday details, and if they can see and edit the access privilege group that they have been assigned to, this makes the contacts module more locked down in relation to employee related data. So another feature that's been added is that users can now click a button to refresh the sell price on a quote or a sales order or a sales invoice. So let's take a quick look at that. So if we go into quotes, and on the line entry section you might have various line items added to a quote, and then you might be changing the sell prices at the product level, and you might want to refresh the sell prices for all lines on a particular quote or a sales order or a sales invoice. Well, you can do that now by clicking on the column header here, and you can refresh the sell price for all lines on the current record. Also, when printing documents like quotations and sales orders and purchase orders, shipping and sales invoices, there's more room for including comments. So for example, on a quotation, we've got a comments on quotation section. We've the same feature in other modules. Now you can put in a lot more comments than in previous versions of JobPro. In the contacts module, you can now put in a photo for a contact and not just for an employee like in previous versions. There's also now control to specify if users or certain users can view or look at the quick view and dashboard screens for other users' relevant data. It's similar to the existing restriction for the calendar. On the assembly tab in jobs, there's new functionality flagging low stock. So if we go into jobs and on the assembly tab, if you've added items in here for assembling of products, you can see then warnings if there's low stock relating to those products for the items that are going to be used to make up the finished products. The cost field or column has now been added to the line item level in all the sales modules. So let's take a look at quotes, for example. Line entry. We've got a cost field there. Same in sales orders. We've got the cost, sales invoices and other relevant modules as well. Also at the quotation level, we've got the markup displaying in a column also, and the margin. From a job costing point of view, where costs versus sales relating to a job, there's now the ability to also include the costs related to a sales orders linked to a job, and not just other costs like purchase order costs, expenses and employee time. There's also the ability to specify whether to include purchase order costs on a job or not. Previously, purchase order costs were applied to job costs automatically. It's important that both the costs for sales orders and purchase orders from a job costing purposes point of view can be turned on or off, otherwise costs might double up incorrectly in the job costing analysis. All filter screens, like when you select contacts or products for example, will now expand vertically to make better use of larger screens. So by that I mean that if you will go and select a company on a quotation for example, if you've got a larger screen and you expand the screen down, it'll then make use of the full screen for selecting a bigger or viewing a bigger quantity of companies in that list. Printed reports and other documents throughout the system allow for more room for fields like product codes. So this is useful if, for example, in the products module, you enter in long product codes. Previously, on occasions, some customers would try and print a document like a report or something, and the product code would get knocked off some of the digits on the end. Now in the new version of JobPro, there's a bigger capacity for displaying product codes and product descriptions on reports and printed documents for customers. Another new feature is that when you delete a job, the system now asks the user if they would like to delete any related tasks linked to that job. There are lots of other miscellaneous new features, including improved installation speed, as the plugins are now built into the system and get installed automatically when the user opens the system for the first time.